Captain on the bridge.
Alright, captains, we are back on the bridge, and today, yes, we will be on the USS Enterprise E for our final video for First Contact Day Fleet tribute of vids that we have been doing. Before we get in this video, captains, don't do us a favor, hit that like button. Also, comment below which ship of the First Contact Day Fleet was your favorite, and also subscribe here to YouTube Bridge if you're new, as we're always on the lookout for like-minded captains where we can share our love, our passion for Star Trek Online, but also things Star Trek. Now, with that said, here we go. Captains, we have been having such a blast here doing these types of series type videos where we just pull out our ships from space dock as they're just collecting dust, and of course, do just our little tribute to them in a fun little way, of course, and make sure that we just have fun. That's what it's all about here on the bridge, is just having fun. Now, what we're going to do quickly here is go over the vids that we've done so far leading up to this one. So we're going to go here. I'll put this on screen quickly. So there we go, captains. We started with the Oberth, and then we moved on to the Miranda. Next was the Soyuz, and of course the Battle Pancake, aka Nebula class. Then we went on to the Steam Runner, to the Akira, which was awesome because, of course, this was the legendary version, which they released when we were doing this series. So that was kind of cool in terms of its timing. And then we moved on to the Saber. One of my personal favorites, of course, the Norway. And the one before this was the tough little ship, Worf's Defiant and or the Defiant class. And of course, now today, we are now led to the main ship that was in the battle of Sector 001. So we'll head over to this page. Again, we've been using this page as a reference to which ships to actually use in this series. And of course, we are led to the NCC 1701E, the USS Enterprise, and Sovereign class. So we'll go to its page here for the USS Enterprise. We'll just read a little bit here, not all of it, but some good information here to kind of just share here. I tend to think of this ship as home. Captain Jean-Luc Picard, 2063, Star Trek First Contact. The USS Enterprise was a 24th Century Federation Sovereign class starship operated by Starfleet. This ship was the 6th Federation starship to bear the name Enterprise. And again, love this ship. This is probably one of the sleekest designs in the Federation there of ships, and first time seeing it, definitely fell in love. But we'll read this a little bit here. On Stardate 49027.5, the Sovereign class Enterprise E, seen as the pinnacle of Starfleet ship design, was launched from San Francisco Fleet Yards with Captain Jean-Luc Picard in command once more. Much of the crew of the Enterprise D had been reassigned there, including almost the entire senior staff. The sole expectation was Lieutenant Commander Worf, who had already transferred to the space station Deep Space Nine. Of course, we all know how that worked out. He had come back. So, the Borg threat. After almost a year in space, the Enterprise was ordered to patrol the Romulan neutral zone. During the second Borg incursion, Starfleet was officially concerned about possible Romulan military action, as many of the available ships had been diverted to fight the Borg. But in reality, Starfleet was concerned about Picard's presence at the battle. Very true. Returned to Earth. However, shortly after the Federation fleet engaged the Borg cube, Picard disobeyed orders and returned to Earth to assist the fleet. Once there, Picard became aware of the battle-induced weakness in the Borg ship due to his residual link to the collective, and ordered all the ships in the fleet to concentrate their fire on that section of the ship. As a result, the Borg vessel was destroyed, and the Battle of Sector 001 was a victory for Starfleet. Again, one of my favorite pew-pews in Star Trek, just because of the sheer amount of phaser fire, photon fire, quantum fire. I think that's the first time we also saw quantum torpedoes. And quite fitting that as of this video, Star Trek Picard Season 3 has ended, and we all know that residual link definitely is the factor and was a factor and played a factor there in that season. So there's that, but we're also going to go over here to this tab and read a little bit of the Sovereign class. So the Sovereign class starship was introduced in the late 24th century, showcasing some of Starfleet's most recent technological advances. And we see here the armament for it. So it says here before refit, so 12 phaser rays, 1 quantum torpedo launcher, 2 forward photon torpedo launchers, 3 aft torpedo launchers. Then after the refit, it went to 16, 1 forward quantum still, 3 forward photon torpedo launchers, and 6 aft photon torpedo launchers. Now, awesomely enough, this ship was featured in Star Trek Picard there. Not only once, there was a bunch of Sovereigns there, so I'm glad we got to see it in action once more. We still didn't really get to know what happened to the E. We had a little bit of a reference from Worf in that it wasn't his fault, but I hope we get to find out what fault it was of his in that little incident, or if we can actually blame him. But again, just one of the most awesome ships in my opinion here in Star Trek franchise. So again, we'll just read this little bit here, then we'll get into the Stowe Bridge. The Sovereign class first major engagements came in 2373 when the USS Enterprise saw action in the Borg incursion into Sector 001 and was instrumental in the destruction of the attacking cube. Always love reading those. So now we'll head over to the Stowe Bridge, and there she is. This slick, oof, just when you look at her gaps, she just looks so good. And I love how the final design, this wasn't the first iteration, of course, but one of the designs there was taken from the Enterprise D, where they kind of did a forward swept nacelle. But I'm glad they did this because it just looks so much more sleeker here, and she just is just one of my favorite ships here, and of course was giddy and happy to of course come back onto her and just do a little fun tribute to that battle. So what we're going to do from this point is go over the build, the weapons, space set, consoles, trade station, and the DOFs, and take it into a Cure advance against the Berg. So here we go. So USS Enterprise E. This time I used the legendary Miracle Worker Assault Cruiser, and yes, I did T6X this. So here we go. For the 4 weapons here, we decided to use those torpedoes that did come from the legendary Kira, the Maelstrom Quantum Torpedoes, because they are quantum torpedoes. Now, as you can tell, captains, we made most of these ships here in the first Contact Day Fleet Tribute, a bunch of torpedo boats, because the whole point here, not necessarily to really tell you how to build your ship, but also just really share our way of how we have fun here on the bridge. And that is just to come up with things that keeps us engaged here. So always keep in mind, these things that I do here on the bridge is just to share the way I play. And like I said, just my passion and love for Star Trek Online, as this keeps me engaged, get it, in Star Trek. So since we can equip 2, I did use 2 of that. So this is going to be firing a lot of torpedoes if you can't tell. So we used those 2. We just went ahead and re-engineered and of course upgraded them. These things hit pretty darn hard, and I'm glad that we have them here. Now we also use the wide angle quantum torpedo, which does come with any version of the Sea Store ship of the Sovereign. Gives you a 180-degree targeting arc, so when you're broadsiding, you can actually fire this torpedo, which is great. And to get that photon torpedo look, we just rounded off an advanced fleet photon torpedo launcher here. Nothing special, but it is re-rolled to crit DM damage 4. Space set, nothing too different. Elite Fleet Intervention Protomatter Deflector from your fleet colony. The prevailing innovative impulse engines from your competition rep. Of course, the mycelial harmonic matter antimatter core and Series review pending modified shield, both from Discovery rep. Now, the 2-piece of this, of course, gives us plus 120% hull regeneration. Now to our aft weapons. To get our phaser looks, this is what we're using. As we had with most of our builds there, the omnidirectional phaser beam, which is something that I just got from the exchange a long time ago. Again, we rolled to crit DM damage 3. We also got the Trilithium enhanced omnidirectional phaser beam, which you got from the episode Nexus. It's a free Omni Beam, captains. Great episode 2 as well. And then to round it off here, because I love firing photons from the aft, we decided to put this one here a photon torpedo reroll to crit DM damage with the spread mod. And of course, rounding it off is the prolonged engagement photon torpedo, which we got as event reward, but you can get from the Phoenix prize pack as a very rare tier. This also does have a 180-degree targeting arc, so it helps us as well fire it as much as we can, because we will be trying to spin around like a headless chicken, as we see the Enterprise do, and most Star Trek ships do when they're in battle, which this is one of the reasons why I love Star Trek. It kind of gives that almost like space waltz in space battles there on screen, and that's why we try to build those ships the way we do. Is it optimal? No. Is it fun? Of course, 100%. Devices here, we had a lot to plug in here, so we got our Torp Candy with a plus 30% bonus projectile damage. We got the Subspace Field Modulator for some damage resistance rating. The Kobayashi Maru Transponder for its buff goodness. Temporal Negotiator to help our bridge officer cooldowns. And we got some reactive armor catalyst just in case we need some hit points in case we take too much damage from Zeeberg. Consoles. Now we got 2 universal consoles that we're working with because we upgraded this, but this was also a Miracle Worker ship, so it already came with 1. So it is the Lorca's Custom Fire Controls. This is the lovingly nicknamed the Lorcator, also comes from the Discovery Rep. Flat out 3.9% critical chance, 157.5 Starship Shield Pen. Not too bad for a console that I think is just more of a time investment / free for me. So this is again in your Discovery Rep. We went with the Ordnance Accelerator from your Gamma Rep this time. This actually helps us with our projectile and phaser damage, so 26.3% helping that out. Not too bad. Now, there were 3 consoles that I thought would be fun to kind of just plug in here. I did kind of use the console that came with the ship, but thinking of First Contact Battle, they didn't use them. But we're going to go with this for the reasons that I'll be stating here. So, next console's up, the Covert Warhead Module. This comes from the Terran Eagle, which came from the 13th anniversary bundle. I'm only using it for 2 things. One, the 28% projectile damage, but also it actually sets shared torpedo recharge to 1.5. This doesn't have pilot maneuvers, of course, but if it did, it would have went to 0.05. Could you imagine a cruiser with pilot maneuvers? That would be absolutely fun. That's the only reason why I'm using this, is just for that reason. Same thing with this console here, the Swarmer Matrix, 30% turn speed, flight speed, and of course damage for your hangar pets and targetable torpedoes, which we don't have, but it will give us plus 50 projectile weapon training. And the next console, which again I've said already many times, I'm so glad that they've unlocked it from the Akira, the Torpedo Point Defense System. So yes, we're going to be firing quantum torpedoes and photon torpedoes like there was no tomorrow. I love this console and I'm glad we do have it, and it really kind of sounds fitting to have this on the ship because of how many photon torpedo launchers it had there according to the armaments page that we read there. Now we're going to have the Bio-Neural Infusion Circuits. Of course, it's from the Low-Buy store for its flat out 29.5 Starship hull capacity and 26.2% crit severity. Still a very good console. Next up, the Emulating Phaser Lance. We're going to use this as our beam overload because we know that they did concentrate their fire on the Borg there. So 1 target, and this is going to help in other ways as well, such as 15.8% phaser damage and a little bit of shield pen, 43.8. This comes from your Deimos pilot destroyer, which you can get from your event campaign, which is the first one that I got when the event campaign went live. Next up, we are going to use the experimental power redirection, which comes from the XL 2.0. This is, of course, going to also be our phaser array. Help our little omni beams there. So 19.9% increased energy damage, but also gives us 13.3 Starship weapon amplification. The XL 2.0 is available for your 2023 event campaign reward, a ship that we highly, highly recommend that you captains get because it is, 1, the ship is just gorgeous. 2, this console is absolutely, absolutely fun. It is literally a symphony of beam overload, which you will see. Next up, we have the dynamic power reserving module from the Atlas, aka prototype Dreadnought. You can also get from your event campaign. 11.3 all damage resistance rating, 19% directed energy damage. And of course, the clicky on this is such a good clicky. For 20 seconds plus 40% bonus damage while our hull is above 80%. Held, hence the two-piece from the warp core and shields help to keep our hull above 80. Plus 100 bonus damage resistance rating, plus 500% hull regen. And of course, we pair it up with the point defense bombardment warhead, plus 25% projectile damage, plus 1% critical chance. Very cute, but the two-piece of this will give us plus 33% phaser damage for directed energy weapon. So it's going to help our beams a little bit. Next up, another one of my favorite consoles here in Star Trek Online, the opening salvo, which comes from the T6 Titan. Of course, gives us 21.4 Starship weapon amplification. But what this does, though, when we fire quantum torpedoes, here it also takes the shields down. So we get a little bit of direct to hull damage while we are firing these quantum torpedoes. And it looks pretty awesome. So you can imagine how much torpedoes are going to be coming out of this build, captains, and that's what we are going for. Next up, the ferrofluid hydraulic assembly for its plus 13% maximum hit points, but also the minus 0.5 second shared torpedo recharge time to help fire our torpedoes as fast as we can. This comes from the Terran Rep, another free / time invested console in my opinion. And to round it off, we just put this vulnerability locator here for the torpedoes for its plus 2% crit chance and more torpedo damage, plus 34.5%. Stat-wise, this gives us 34 crit chance and 178.3 crit severity. Do keep in mind, captains, my Pendevers are ranked up to 600. Yes, I can go to 750, but again, my philosophy is I was doing good before, and I'm doing fine after. And again, this is tailored to the way I do my space pew-pews nightly here on the bridge. So there's that. Now we're going to go to our skills. Nothing different. Again, I don't plan on changing this. Same skill set that I have been using, or skill tree, I should say, for years. So we spent 8 in engineering, 10 in sci, and 28 in tactical. Specialization, intel primary, temporal secondary. Traits, this is what we got going on here. We have a good day to die, kinetic precision, self-modulating fire, into the breach, resonating payload modification, superior projectile training, unconventional systems, Terran targeting systems, intelligent agent attaché, and the Boimler effect. So Starship traits, again, we got 6 to work with here, so we took advantage of it. So ceaseless momentum, universal designs, subspatial warheads, entwined tactile matrices. This is going to be giving us our back-to-back torp spreads. Assault formation theta, of course, it's going to grant us a additional high yield 3. And to round off the weapon system synergy to help give us more torpedo performance using our energy weapons. Space reputation, torpedo pre-fire sequence, advanced targeting systems, omega kinetic shearing, enhanced shield pen, and Tyler's duality. Active space rep, we're going with anti-time entanglement singularity, biomolecular shield generator, force challenge, tethered non-baryonic asteroid, or Riker maneuver 2.0 sort of esque. Refactoring Tetron cascade. We don't really use it, but it's just good to have it there in my opinion. Stations left to right, top to bottom is what we did. Of course, our tractor beam, a very Star Trek ability to always use on any of the ships. Scramble sensors. Here we have our beam fire at will, torpedo spread, and attack pattern omega. Chemosite lace weaponry, and another torpedo high yield, this time 2. So you can see here we're going to have 2 back-to-back torp spreads, 2 back-to-back high yields, because of course with Assault Formation Theta using attack pattern omega, we get an additional high yield. So we're firing out a high yield 3 and a high yield 2, and 1 torp spread 2 and 1 torp spread 1. So a lot of torps going to be coming out of this ship, Caps. Next up, we have the Mercy Power 2 engines. Emit unstable warp bubble. Destabilize warp core 3 for the beautiful visual that it gives us. And then of course mix armament synergy, which helps as when we use one power, it will boost the other powers. So we're going to use this as much as possible by activating this, hitting fire at will, which will then help our torpedoes, is the thought process. And then what we decided to do here is just the endothermic inhibitor beam and structural integrity collapse. Now for our dupes, we go to our dupes. This is what we did with our dupes. So the 2 ground helping us in space, Neil Falconer, who was also in first contact, increased damage versus the Berg, even though it's in the ground slot, it will help us in space. Elder Melikatan, space, increased damage versus all. And for our active space DOFs, we got the Emergency Con holographic here, the Con officer, recharges our evasive maneuvers when emergency power to engines is activated. So it'll help us get to point A, B a lot faster. We have 3 projectile officers here, 2 of which give us a chance to stack crit severity, and 1 gives us a chance to reduce the time to recharge torpedoes. So we're trying to help again in reducing our recharge time for our torpedoes. Then 1 energy weapons officer here to give us a chance to stack crit chance when firing our energy weapons, which we do have. And then of course Glyrene to help us with increased damage versus the Berg. So there it is, Captains. That is the build here on my Enterprise E. And again, keep in mind, I always just do this for fun, and I'm just sharing this with you here. But we're going to see how this does versus the Berg. Now we're going to go into Cure Advance. And as we've done before, we're going to start with the left docking station, take that out as fast as we can, zip over to the right, and while we're doing that, taking care of all the ships heading over towards the Kang, because that's one of our objectives there, is to protect the Kang, take out the right docking station, clean up, take out the center docking station, and then finish off the TFO. So here we go. Head over here to the private queue, go to an advance. Do this just because.
Take us out of here. Maximum warp.
Ooh.
Engage.
Because yes, Picard's here anyways, right? So yes, Picard is here. So here you go.
Tactical alert. Vessel approaching. Bearing 184, Mark 7.
All hands. Battle stations.
Here we go. So again.
Weapons hot, deflectors to full.
There goes that. In a flurry of bye-byes. That was quite instant. Okay, we're gonna zip over here. That photon torpedo, quantum torpedoes, yes. And head over here, take out these ones, and then we're gonna clean up if we need to. There's the Maelstrom torps. So much pewz. And beautiful pewz at that. Well, the Enterprise is doing well, just making sure there's nothing left here. We'll take out this spear because, actually, you know what? We'll take this out as well. We'll clean up that, but we want to make sure that the Kang is protected, so we take out these Raptors because they always go towards a Kang. Then we'll clean up these ones after. Some more Raptors here. One over there going.
Target's shields have failed.
Yeah, so we get our phaser looks to as well. Let's hold that in place while we just pewz it. And then head over here. Get rid of these raptors. Oof, that's gonna hurt. There you go. Take care of this dock station here. Get rid of that cube. Woo. Give some aft torpedoes. Woo. Make sure again nothing's heading towards the Kang. We'll clean up. We will clean up, Caps. Don't worry. I just want to make sure the Kang is safe. Looks like everything's clear there. We'll head off and take these Negvars heading over to the Kang and save our major bus for that last cube there. Actually, we'll make sure that the other docking station there, the first one, is clear before we do that. Some aft torpedoes. Look at that beautiful explosion. Yes, flying around like a headless chicken. Let's take care of these ones. Just cuz. We're just gonna use our regular. Make sure nothing else is heading towards a Kang. Might as well get this all taken care of here. There you go. Now we can take care of that center cube. Our evasive maneuvers here. And use all of our buffs that we have remaining. Take this cube out. There it goes. Whew. I love how I get my phaser, my photon, my quantum looks with all of the builds that we do here, which is really what I'm going for, to be honest with you. And there you go. Look at her. Making sure there's nothing left here. Yep. Did pretty well. Now let's tell the Kang to get out of here. I don't think she was even touched once, but regardless, she's protected. Let's clear up this TFO. And we're gonna fly around like a headless chicken. That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're going to do. Get all the photons. Look from the fore aft. Our phaser fire. Even flying optimally with like a headless chicken, we still did pretty good with our build. And that is why we do what we do, because it is just so fun seeing a ship fly on screen here in Star Trek Online and still get the job done. And that job was, of course, to pew pews. And look at that. We'll just take one shelfie, captains. Those are our ship selfies that we love here. And we'll take one, of course, with the E with some Borg straps out there. So, the background. We'll head off here. Now we'll give our final conclusions. Of course, I think we know how we feel. And of course, captains, I've said it again. I'll say it one more time. We only do this for fun, for the sake of our immersion, which is the most important part. And fun can be very different from one captain to another, just as long as you are having fun is the most important fact. So there you go, captains. That is how my Enterprise E did here against Zeeberg. This is our last ship in our tribute to First Contact Day and the fleet that was used there. And captains, first and foremost, thank you so much for checking out these series of vids that we do. And again, any type of reason to do these types of videos, we will always do. But this comes to an end with us using the main ship from First Contact which is the USS Enterprise E, the Sovereign class, one of our personal favorite ships here. And again, captains, hopefully you enjoyed this. We will find another one to do, but as I mentioned, this is just for fun, sharing our way here to have fun here in Star Trek Online. So there you go, captains. Do us a huge favor. As always, hit that like button. Comment below in the description what you thought of the Sovereign class, the USS Enterprise E, when you first saw it kind of fly across the screen there. What were your thoughts? Did this become your favorite ship? And of course, do us a huge favor and subscribe here to YouTube Bridge if you are new. And of course, we will see you in the next vid, and we will leave it off on this.
Live long and prosper.